Hey guys, welcome back to the Psalms to God YouTube channel. Today I want to show you one of my notebooks that I don't think I've ever actually shown or talked about on the channel, and it is my biblical languages notebook. I've been taking biblical Hebrew online. It's a class offered by Zondervan. There's actually two Hebrew classes. There's a part 1 and a part 2, and then there are two Greek classes, part 1 and part 2, and then there's an Aramaic class. And recently they offered like a discount on the package of all of them. So I actually bought all 5 classes and have been working my way through them. There is a time limit. I do wish I could have them just like indefinitely, but there's like a 3-year, I think this is like a 3-year time limit for all of the classes. So I need to pick up the pace a little bit so that I can get them all done within that time frame. I actually have taken their Hebrew Part 1 class previously, but it's been a while, so I'm retaking it as a refresher before I jump into the Hebrew Part 2 class. I will say that they changed things. If you guys want like more of like a review of the classes or something later, just let me know and I'll make a separate video to talk about the classes themselves. But I did want to show you the notebook and how I take notes during those classes and to learn those things. And I think some of this shows in my war binders because ever since I started taking Hebrew, I have written out those words, and you'll see like a lot of my word studies that I've shown, you'll see the Hebrew and the Greek words written out and me doing more in-depth looks at them. And so this is kind of like the foundation of that. So that's why I wanted to bring that notebook onto the channel. At the end of the video, I talk a little bit about why I think it's important and some cool things that I've noticed while studying these words. But for now, I just want to jump straight into the notebook because that's what most of you guys are here for. So here is my notebook. This is a standard 8.5 by 11. And then I punched the corners to be rounded edges. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it's kind of blurry, but I round the edges. I like that so that I don't have sharp edges. Sharp edges, the thicker the notebook is, the sharper the edges, and it's a pain. For the notebook, this is faux leather. I think it's actually like some sort of vinyl material. I got a roll of this off of Amazon and just cut 2 pieces to the size that I wanted and then stitched around the edge. If you ever want to create a cover like this for your own notebooks, just a pro tip. I use, I forgot the name of this. How did I forget the name of it? Chipboard. I use chipboard for my front and back covers. That's what's traditionally on like your 5-star binders and stuff like that. It's what gives it like a thickness so that it's not like bendy. It's like thick and rigid. So in between these vinyl sheets, there is a piece of chipboard. However, it's very difficult to sew through. Some of you may be better at sewing than I am, or you may be using a sewing machine. But for me, it was very difficult the first time I tried that. So I have started cutting my chipboard a little shorter than I want my cover to be. And as you can see here, my stitches are actually outside of the chipboard around them. And then I just push the chipboard in from this back edge. And I typically leave this back edge not sewn. It's just sewn around the perimeter. And then I do it that way. I also have a tendency to not bring the chipboard all the way out. So the chipboard usually stops somewhere in here. That is also because it's hard to punch through all of them. I have 2 hole punches. One is stronger than the other. And there's about a 50-50 shot at if I have the chipboard and the 2 sheets of vinyl that I'll be able to get holes all the way through. So if you want to try this, those are some hacks that you might want. I have also done notebooks where I don't put any chipboard in there and it's just the vinyl. It's very soft. My war binder is like that. I don't have anything in between and it makes it like flexible. I don't particularly like that style, but it's something that you can do that's marginally easier. That being said, this is my notebook. Like I said, it is 8.5 by 11. There is dot grid here. It's very hard for me to pick up dot grid on camera, even when I zoom in. I know some people have asked me in the comments, like, how am I writing straight? There are little dots. I want to think I do 5 dots per inch. I either do 4 dots per inch or 5 dots per inch. So for every inch, there will be that many dots, and then it creates little boxes. That helps with indenting and keeping indentions straight, and it also helps with writing across the page straight. So that's my little secret. I'm not actually good at writing straight on plain paper. I have a table of contents, and I created this little tip-in that I want to show you guys. So this is at the beginning. I assume that this notebook will only contain Hebrew, that I'll have to make another notebook for Greek. So that is why I did this in this particular manner. If I end up putting Greek in, I'll probably do one of these just further into the book. But this is the Hebrew alphabet. This is it in print, and this is it in script. And then if you flip it out, I have the names of the letters. And then I also have included final forms for the letters that have final forms. But I created this with this little tab that's at the top. So if I'm in the middle of the book, I can get back to this really quickly if I need a refresher on what the alphabet looks like, or the order of the alphabet, which is usually why I end up using it. So once I flip over, I think this is where things get a little more interesting. So this is my first page in the notebook where I'm really just writing out the alphabet. I have the names. It's basically the same thing that I have in that little tip-in, except here I am also showing like the strokes, like how the letters are written. It's a little bit difficult to see on camera, but I have lines that show like this letter is to be written. This is the first stroke. 1 goes down like this, 2 across, 3 up. And it just shows like the way that you're supposed to write the letter. One of the things that I've noticed for me in writing Hebrew, I also had this issue in Arabic, is that because the language is written from right to left, and I grew up with English, which is left to right, a lot of the letters I want to write the opposite way it's meant to be written, which 1 causes it to look kind of funny, and 2 throws off the flow of how you're writing, because you're writing this way and then all of a sudden I want to do something like this. And so that is why I created this page, and I refer to it occasionally because, yeah, that's a big deal for me. Down here I just have a note from where I got this information. Mainly the class that I'm taking it shows you the letters, but it doesn't really, I don't think it really goes through in detail how to write the letters. I kind of found this on my own. And the class does not go over the script letters. I just have them here because I think they're pretty and I think it's cool. But the class ignores the script letters altogether because I don't think that's found in the Bible. But I thought it would be interesting to look at. Now, another thing that you'll notice is that I have tabs over here. So usually when I try to create tab notebooks, I create the tabs on like a spare piece of paper and I just fold it over and like, you know, cover it and things like that. Like the way you would buy sticky tabs from the store. And sometimes that's what I do. I actually buy tabs from the store and I just write on them and stick them in my journals. But I thought I would experiment because I kind of wanted the tabs to be inside. Like as you saw when I first opened the notebook and when you shut the notebook, you don't have anything sticking out. It's smooth all the way down. When you have tabs that stick out like this, there's much more chances of them getting damaged, which annoys me because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I wanted to try this method. I do like it. I like the way it looks. The con of this is that because I don't know how many pages up front each chapter will be, I have to cut each page individually and determine when to create a tab on the fly. That's a little bit more work. If you're not a fan of that, I say go with the traditional way of making tabs. But if you're up for a challenge, that is one way to do it. As you can see, I've completed through Unit 4. So this tab is at the beginning of Unit 1. 2, 4, so on. So these are my notes. This is how I've always taken notes. This is kind of weird things started before I actually started my Warbinder. This for me helps to calm my brain. I think I might have a touch of ADD. And so when I was younger, I discovered that if I focused on making my notes pretty, it would make me focus on the material as opposed to like going off into la la land. So my notes have always been colorful and like playing with different fonts and stuff within the notes because it helps me to focus in on the material. So I have kept that. It's definitely gotten more fancy as I've gotten older. If you looked at my notes from like high school or like college, my handwriting is definitely different. Also, I didn't know about dot grid, so it was it was on regular lined paper, and I didn't have like brush pens and stuff, so I was using like a regular cheap pen, and I used a lot of gel pens. These are also gel pens, but there was a lot of smearage. So they're definitely not as neat, but as I've gotten older, these are really neat. And then with it being a online class, the videos, I can pause them. So a lot of times I will pause to write out things, as opposed to just like rushing through and trying to keep up with a teacher who you can't like pause and rerun the sentence. But this is basically my notes. One thing I will say is that like these letters, I found them on Pinterest, and so this is not like a letter creation of mine. I just found them on Pinterest and thought they were pretty, and so I used them. But I didn't want to do like the whole word syllabification in this kind of style. That just seemed like way too much. So I'm only doing like the first 2 letters, and some of them I'm doing in black. Sometimes I'm doing them in gray. That was more of a brain fart on my part. I couldn't figure out what I liked better. So now I'm just kind of alternating it. But that is that. There's also in the corner, I have page numbers for each page. Eventually I'll go back and put the page numbers on the table of contents. I'm just trying to see if I'm going to do a split column or if it's going to take up the whole page. At the end of each section, I have vocabulary. The first time I ever did this, I also tried to write in the pronunciation, but I found that it wasn't really helpful. So now I just write the word and the meaning of the word beside it. And I think the rules of Hebrew and like learning the words has been probably the most interesting part of the class. I mean, I guess that's the whole point. But in terms of relating it back to the Bible, there's so many things that are like slightly different than in English. So like one of the first things I ever learned in, a Hebrew class was the word devar, which means words. It means word. Devarim means words. And that's how it's generally translated in our language, but it's weird because it doesn't just mean word. It also means thing. It means the action. Like the word, the thing, the action, like it's all encompassed in the same word. So like when you're speaking something, it's also like you're acting it. And I think that gives like a different layer when you're reading certain phrases. This is why when you see me do word studies, I like to include the original word instead of just sticking with our English version of the word. Another word that I think was a pair of words that I found very interesting in studying is the word mayim and shamayim. Mayim means water, and it's actually a dual word. So it dual words refer to 2, and usually it's for like your ears or your eyes, things that you have 2 of. So it's not like plural, meaning like 3 or more, but it means dual. And the word waters is this dual thing, which I think is very interesting considering in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, they actually separate the waters from the waters. There are two bodies of waters now. But what's even more interesting is that the word Shemayim means heaven or sky, and it's literally just like a sh sound in front of the word mayim, and it makes me wonder about like why these are so close to each other. Things like that, just more food for thought when you're studying. The last thing I'll show you before I cut out of this video is that at the end I've been creating kind of like a catalog of the vocabulary so that they're all in one place. I started out, I was going to put them in alphabetical order, and then I realized that was going to be a nightmare because they're not given in alphabetical order. And I was like, how do I know how many like rows to skip, etc., etc.? So I had already made this aleph, which is the first letter. And so then I just started, I was like, you know what? It's going to be A, B, C, like how you number things in an outline. So that's why I have the big Hebrew letters that don't really mean anything. This is actually like Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. And so I plan to just go through and I roughly counted the number of words in the textbook and estimated how many pages I would need. I probably left a couple of extra to try to like be able to fit everything in. And for now, I just have a sticky tab to help me get to this page. But once I actually do this, then as you can see, I left a margin here. I do plan to cut a tab in here. I probably will not cut the other pages because there will be no need to. But the first page, either this page or the page preceding it, depending on whether or not I have enough space, I will probably cut a tab in here to make it easier to find this in the back. But that is a tour of my notebook. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!